Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is a relation. So a relation is any kind of relationship between two variables. Okay, you're gonna have to get used to my writing, guys. I know it is a little. I am writing a little bit quicker, so that way, you know, it might not. If you don't know what a word means, just tell me, and then I'll just I'll stop there and go back to it. If there is a certain concept that you don't understand, please stop me and let me know. So that way I can explain it, so we can keep going forward. That way you can understand the rest of the material better. Okay. So if you have any questions, just you know, just say it out loud. I'll basically get to it. So relation is a relationship between two variables, and the two variables we're going to be looking at, I think you would have already been exposed to this. One of the variables, x, is called your independent variable. The other variable, y, is called the dependent variable. Okay, and the way we look at relationships is we always look at the dependent variable is affected by changes of the independent variable. Now you would have seen cases of this. Say you're looking at an investigation in real life. Say you're looking at the investigation. You're comparing amount of TV watched, let's say hours per day, versus let's say average test scores or something as a percentage. Okay, these are two variables that you're looking at, right? An investigation is you're looking at some kind of relationship between these two variables. And the reason we call them variables is because a variable is anything that can change, right? So in this sense, if you're looking at the amount of TV watched hours per day and the average test scores, your amount of TV watched is going to be your independent variable. The average test scores is going to be your dependent variable. Now we have to explain, okay, why is one of these variables independent and why is the other one dependent? Well, an independent variable, this is the formal definition, is a variable that can be freely manipulated. I'll say that can be. So basically, it's a variable that we can freely change, right? Because you can look at, you know, 0 hours of TV watched, 1 hour of TV watched, 2 hours of TV watched, and so forth, right? Your independent variable can freely change, but the dependent variable will only change due to changes in the independent variable. Okay, so the dependent variable only will change as a result of changes in the independent variable. So for instance, if you looked at average test scores versus the amount of TV watched, you can try to imagine that if you have more hours of TV watched, you would probably see a lower average test score, right? If you were to graph this, and what a graph is just a representation of data. If you were to graph this, you would put your independent variable on the x-axis. You would put your dependent variable on the y-axis, right? So you would have probably already looked at ways to graph this, and a graph is just a representation of data. We used graphs to basically illustrate a certain pattern or trend in the data. And in a sense, let's say that this was somewhat, it looked linear, like it looked like a line, then maybe we could understand that if this was the amount of TV watched in hours per day, and this was average test scores, percentage, you know, maybe you could imagine that if you could have like some kind of representation, some kind of graph that looked like this, right? Because you can imagine that if you had, let's say, this amount of TV that's being watched, maybe this is your test score, but then if you increase the amount of time watched, you know, the test score would go down. Okay. Now that's just one example. I just want to illustrate what an independent and dependent variable is, right?